The acrid scent of plasma discharge hung heavy in the air as Lieutenant Eric Vale stepped through the wreckage of what had once been Bastion Relay Theta. Ion storms still crackled overhead, crawling like living veins across a sky torn open by orbital bombardment. The metallic taste of ionized air seeped through his suit's filtration system, dry and bitter on his tongue. Burned circuitry smoked in twitching heaps. Somewhere to his left, a ruptured power core spat blue sparks into the rubble before finally dying with a hollow whine. His boots crushed shattered alloy and spent casings. The sound echoed across the plateau, too loud in the absence of gunfire, too sharp against the suffocating quiet that followed catastrophe. The battlefield was silent. Too silent. Vale slowed near the broken remains of an anti-air turret, its barrel twisted skyward like a snapped bone. Bodies lay scattered between barricades, human marines in carbon-scorched armor, alien shock troops in segmented silver plating. The fight had been close. Too close. His visor display flickered as it struggled to reconnect to satellite uplinks. Static crawled across his HUD before tactical overlays finally stabilized. Armor integrity, 63%. Primary weapon charge, 18%. Auxiliary power, failing. Life signs, friendly, scanning. He held still, listening. Nothing but wind dragging ash across broken stone. The system refreshed. Scanning. Scanning. No friendly signals. A hollow pressure settled behind his ribs. He might be the last one standing. Vale switched to squad frequency anyway. Alpha Team, respond. Static hissed in reply. He toggled emergency channel. Command, this is Vale. Bastion Theta is down. I repeat. The transmission dissolved into white noise. Above him, the enemy fleet had already pulled back beyond visual range, their objective completed. Bastion Relay Theta had served as a joint research site, housing a captured alien asset deemed strategically insignificant once the invasion escalated. Not worth extraction. Not worth casualties. The official phrasing still rang in his memory. He adjusted the grip on his VX-9 pulse rifle, its barrel glowing faintly from overuse. A single fragmentation charge remained clipped at his hip. Combat blade secured. Environmental suit seals holding, for now. Ash swirled around him as he moved toward the shattered containment wing at the relay's core. The reinforced doors had been blown inward from the inside. Something had survived. Or something had tried to escape. The wind shifted. He caught it then, the faint, unfamiliar scent beneath smoke and ozone. Not human. Alive. Vale stepped through the ruined threshold, rifle raised. The interior lights flickered erratically, casting fractured shadows across containment pods and collapsed support beams. Deep gouges marked the floor as if something heavy had been dragged, or had tried to crawl. His HUD glitched again. Still no friendly markers. Still alone. They had written this place off. Written her off. Vale tightened his jaw and advanced deeper into the containment chamber. They said the paralyzed alien wasn't worth saving. He intended to prove them wrong. A faint metallic scrape echoed from the far side of the containment chamber. Vale froze. His rifle snapped toward the sound as his HUD attempted to isolate movement through drifting smoke. Thermal imaging flickered, unstable readings bleeding across the display. The chamber's ceiling had partially collapsed, burying half the containment pods beneath twisted girders and fractured composite slabs. A weak heat signature. Low to the ground. Irregular. He advanced carefully, boots crunching over shattered glass and exposed wiring. The air felt heavier here, charged, humming faintly as if the atmosphere itself recognized something powerful and wounded within it. Beneath the debris lay a figure that didn't belong to the smoke and ruin. She was draped across the broken floor like fallen starlight. Her skin shimmered with a pale iridescence, shifting subtly between silver and deep indigo as emergency lights flickered overhead. Veins of faint bioluminescence traced geometric patterns along her arms and neck, once symmetrical, now dim and fractured where injuries disrupted their flow. Four elongated limbs extended from a lean, elegant frame, but the lower pair lay motionless beneath a slab of collapsed support beam. Not crushed. Unresponsive. Paralyzed. Her hair flowed around her like liquid mercury, reacting not to gravity but to residual electromagnetic currents in the room. Fine crystalline ridges framed her temples, cracked in places, leaking a faint glow that pulsed in uneven rhythm. Power radiated from her even in stillness. Ancient. Controlled. Now broken. She sensed him before he spoke. Her eyes opened, sharp, intelligent, defiant. They were luminous, layered with shifting constellations beneath translucent irises. Not animal. Not specimen. Royalty. Consciousness. "You should not have returned," she said, her voice harmonic, two tones woven into one. The translator in his suit hesitated before aligning to her frequency. "You are injured," Vale replied quietly. "I am immobilized," she corrected. "Spinal lattice disruption. Neural cascade failure." He activated his bioscanner, sweeping a lattice of light across her body. The results populated instantly. Species: unknown. High cognitive index. Spinal neural conduit. Severed. Motor function: 0% lower limbs. Internal trauma: severe. Estimated survival probability without advanced xenobiological intervention: 2.3%. Extraction viability: negative. Even if he carried her to a dropship, if one still existed, her physiology wouldn't withstand transport. Atmospheric pressure variance alone would destabilize her neural matrix. She saw the data reflected faintly across his visor. "Your command has calculated correctly," she said softly. "I am not recoverable." Outside, distant engines rumbled, enemy patrols sweeping back through the ruins to confirm total elimination. "You will not escape if you remain," she added. He looked at the beam pinning her lower body, at the blood pooling beneath her, at the power still burning stubbornly in her eyes. Protocol scrolled automatically across his HUD. Directive 12C: non-mobile alien assets are not to supersede active personnel survival. Her gaze didn't waver. "Leave me," she said. His scanner confirmed it. She wouldn't survive extraction. Protocol was clear. Vale lowered his rifle, then stepped forward. He ignored it. The support beam pinning her lower body was fused into the floor plating. Vale crouched beside it, examining the angle, the weight distribution, the fractures spidering across the metal. "Structural instability detected," his HUD warned. "Collapse probability increasing." "Yeah," he muttered. "Heard you the first time." He wedged his rifle beneath the beam to gain leverage and activated his suit's servo assist. Motors in his exosleeves whined as he pushed upward. The beam didn't move. Her luminous eyes studied him calmly. "You lack the mass ratio required to shift it," she said. "Encouraging," he replied through clenched teeth. He adjusted his footing, braced his shoulder against the beam, and pushed again, harder. Metal screamed. Dust cascaded from above. The beam lifted, barely, but enough. "Like hell," he muttered, pulling her free as the support finally shifted sideways and crashed into shattered containment glass. He dropped to one knee beside her, breath heavy in his helmet. Her lower limbs remained motionless. "You are wasting critical energy reserves," she observed. "Probably." He slid one arm carefully beneath her back and the other under her legs. They hung limp, weightless in a way that unsettled him more than blood would have. He lifted her. She was lighter than expected, her frame built for grace rather than brute force. The faint glow beneath her skin flared at the contact, stabilizing slightly. "You are illogical, human," she said as he rose to his feet. "Yeah," he grinned faintly. "It's kind of our thing." Her gaze sharpened. "You jeopardize your survival probability for an immobilized alien combatant." "Civilian," he corrected automatically. Her eyes narrowed. "I am neither. Doesn't matter." He adjusted his hold and stepped toward the fractured exit corridor, boots crunching over debris. "My lower neural conduit is severed," she continued. "Mobility restoration is beyond your species' medical capacity." "Good thing I wasn't planning surgery." "You cannot outrun aerial patrols while burdened." "Good thing I wasn't planning to outrun them." She blinked. "What are you planning?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he paused long enough to check his HUD. Multiple enemy signals sweeping the perimeter. "Close. Too close." "You are not enhanced," she continued. "Your musculoskeletal output is standard. Your species does not possess redundant spinal pathways for shock tolerance. Wow, he muttered. You aliens ever try optimism? It is not insult. It is analysis. He looked down at her. And what does your analysis say about stubbornness? She hesitated. Your species displays disproportionate resistance to surrender under low survival conditions. Exactly. She studied his faceplate, searching for something. You believe this is bravery? No, he said quietly. I believe it's decency. A distant explosion rattled the corridor behind them. You will die, she said softly. Maybe. And I will slow you. Definitely. Her expression flickered, confusion blending with something else. Then why? He tightened his grip, lifting her slightly higher as he stepped into the ruined hallway. Because they left you. She didn't respond. They left my team too, he added. Guess I'm not a fan of that strategy. For a moment, her composure fractured. Just slightly. You are inefficient, she said. He chuckled. Story of my life. Another tremor shook the structure. She studied him again, longer this time. You are certain, she said slowly, that I am worth this risk? He didn't hesitate. Yeah. Not because she was powerful. Not because she was valuable. Because she was there. Alive. He shifted her weight and continued forward through smoke and falling ash. Try not to die on me, he added lightly. Her luminous eyes held his. For you, she said quietly, I will attempt the illogical. And that was when the chemistry truly began. The corridor ahead flickered with movement. Vale felt it before he saw it, the faint vibration through the floor plating, rhythmic and synchronized. He lowered himself behind a collapsed bulkhead, keeping her cradled against his chest. His HUD flared red. Multiple hostiles. Closing fast. Heavy armor signatures. She tilted her head slightly, eyes unfocusing as if listening beyond sound. They are advancing in triangular formations, she whispered. Lead unit draws fire. 2 flank. 1 reserves for termination strike. Vale adjusted his grip on the VX-9, bracing the rifle against the edge of cover. Good, he muttered. I hate straight lines. The first trooper rounded the corridor corner, weapon raised. Vale fired. The pulse round struck center mass, staggering the unit but not dropping it. Exactly as she predicted, the flanking troopers split, one climbing along the wall's magnetic rails, the other sliding low across the floor. Upper right, she said instantly. 2 meters above your sight line. He pivoted without hesitation and fired upward. The bolt caught the climbing trooper mid-transition, punching through the visor seam. Explosion. Sparks showered the corridor. The second flanker opened fire, energy bolts ripping through the bulkhead inches from Vale's shoulder. Armor joint beneath left clavicle, she instructed calmly. He leaned out, waited half a heartbeat for the trooper to commit to the burst. Then fired precisely where she directed. The armor ruptured. The trooper collapsed. The reserve unit stepped forward, heavier, weapon humming at higher frequency. You cannot outrun that, she said quietly. Wasn't planning to. The heavy unit fired. Vale dove sideways, rolling across the floor while shielding her with his body. The bolt scorched the wall behind them. She raised one trembling hand. The air shimmered. The incoming second shot bent slightly, just enough to graze his shoulder plate instead of piercing it. He blinked. You did that. Yes. Useful. Focus. He surged forward while the heavy recalibrated. She tracked its balance, subtle distortions shifting its stance by fractions of an inch. Half a step off-center. Vale closed distance and slammed a fragmentation charge against the trooper's chest before diving backward. The explosion rocked the corridor. Silence followed. Smoke curled around them. He pushed himself up slowly, checking her. You still with me? He asked. Her bioluminescent veins pulsed brighter than before. Yes, she said, studying the fallen enemies. Your reaction timing was efficient. Your targeting advice wasn't bad either. A faint flicker, almost amusement, crossed her expression. Impressive shooting, she breathed. Impressive intel, he replied. More movement echoed in the distance, reinforcements converging. "You should leave me and increase speed," she said automatically. He adjusted his hold instead. "Not happening." She studied him for a long second. "You compensate for physical limitation with aggression," she observed. "And you compensate for paralysis with gravity tricks," he shot back. A pause. Then, softly, "You are unexpectedly compatible in combat, Lieutenant." He smirked despite the smoke and blood. "Careful." That almost sounded like a compliment. Another tremor shook the station. He tightened his grip and moved forward again, her guidance flowing steadily into his decisions. Angles, timing, momentum. Not burden. Not liability. Partnership. As enemy shadows gathered ahead, she spoke once more. "Left corridor. Blind corner. 3 hostiles." He adjusted aim. "Good," he murmured. And together, they charged into the fire. They burst through a fractured blast door and into a chamber untouched by the bombardment. It was circular, smooth, ancient. Unlike the rest of the relay, this room hadn't been built by humans. At its center stood a suspended crystalline lattice, hovering within 3 rotating metallic rings. Soft violet light pulsed through it in slow, rhythmic waves, like a heartbeat waiting for synchronization. Vale slowed. Her breathing changed instantly. "This," she whispered, awe breaking through her composure, "is a convergent spire." "Is that good?" he asked, checking the corridor behind them. His HUD showed enemy signatures converging. "Fast." "It is sacred." "That wasn't my question." She looked at the device, then at him. "It can restore neural pathways," she said quietly. "Even severed spinal conduits." Hope hit him harder than the explosions had. "What's the catch?" Her luminous eyes met his. "It does not activate through singular contact." He frowned. "Meaning?" "It requires dual sentience in harmonic alignment." "In English." She inhaled slowly. "It creates a biological bond," she said. He paused. "Define bond." Her gaze didn't waver. "Permanent." Enemy signals flared closer on his HUD. 40 seconds. "The spire merges neural lattices," she continued. "Motor function can be redistributed. Cognitive load shared. Injury balanced between hosts." "Balanced how?" "If one experiences pain, the other will feel it." He stared at the glowing structure. "And if one dies, the other will not remain unaffected." Outside, boots thundered down the corridor. Weapons charging. "This is not temporary," she added softly. "Your nervous system would integrate with mine. Your species is not designed for such resonance." "Story of my life," he muttered. The chamber lights intensified as if sensing proximity. "You would no longer be entirely separate," she finished. He checked his ammo. Glow. Checked the corridor. Hostiles seconds away. Checked her. Paralyzed. Still fighting. "You're telling me I can get you walking again," he said, "but I permanently wire my brain to yours." "Yes." "And there's no undo button." "No." The blast door behind them buckled under impact. Metal shrieked. He exhaled slowly. "Yeah," he said, stepping inside the innermost ring as the metallic bands began to rotate faster. "I've made worse decisions." Her eyes widened slightly. "You are certain?" "No," he replied honestly. Another impact cracked the door. He extended his hand toward her. "But I'm consistent." She placed her palm against his. The crystal ignited, and the door behind them exploded inward. The convergent spire erupted in light. Not outward. Through them. Vale felt something thread into his spine like liquid fire, not burning but rewriting. His breath caught as sensation doubled, then tripled. The weight in his arms vanished. He felt her thoughts before she spoke them. Not words. Vectors. Enemy trajectories mapped in luminous arcs. Structural stress fractures in the chamber walls. The exact timing between hostile trigger depressions and energy discharge. And beneath it, her fear. Her strength. Her astonishment at the immovable, stubborn core of him anchoring the merge. She felt him too. His pulse steadying under pressure. The way he shifted weight before lunging. The instinct to shield before striking. The refusal to calculate loss when someone else was on the line. The severed neural conduit along her spine ignited in blinding silver. Vale gasped as her paralysis vanished, not gradually, but instantly. He felt the reconnection ripple through both of them like a snapped cable rejoining current. Her legs moved. At the same moment, his reflexes sharpened beyond anything his combat training had prepared him for. The blast door disintegrated. Shock troopers flooded the chamber. She stood beside him now, not carried. Equal. She felt his trigger pull before he fired. The VX-9 discharged. Mid-flight, she bent the energy bolt with gravitational precision, splitting it into twin arcs that struck two targets simultaneously. The first line fell. Return fire erupted. She raised her hand. He stepped forward. A curved kinetic barrier snapped into existence around them, her control shaping it, his stance stabilizing it. Energy blasts struck and dispersed in cascading showers of light. They moved, not as two beings, but as a single will. He rolled left before conscious thought formed. She destabilized the floor beneath a charging trooper. He came up firing. She compressed local gravity around a weapon joint. Armor ruptured exactly where he aimed. Another flanker attempted a rear assault. She sensed it first. He pivoted without looking. One shot. Down. The remaining hostiles hesitated. Confusion rippled through their formation as tactical models failed in real time. They had trained against humans. They had trained against her kind. They had never trained against integration. Vale felt her power surge, but now it didn't threaten to overwhelm her. His endurance grounded it, giving it structure. Her precision refined his aggression into something surgical. Balanced. Evolved. The last trooper charged in desperation. She shifted gravity. He advanced. One decisive strike ended it. Silence reclaimed the chamber. Smoke curled upward through fading violet light. The battlefield had changed. Not because a new weapon had been unleashed, but because a human chose not to leave someone behind. And in doing so, triggered an evolution neither species saw coming. The last of the enemy forces withdrew from orbit within the hour. Through their shared perception, Vale felt it happen, not through sensors, but through her expanded awareness. Their fleet formations fractured. Command signals spiked in confusion. Retreat vectors plotted in haste. They had witnessed something they did not understand. Something they could not easily counter. The convergent spire dimmed behind them, its purpose fulfilled. She stood without assistance now, testing her restored movement with quiet wonder. Every step she took sent a faint harmonic echo through his nervous system. Alive. Whole. Connected. He exhaled slowly, adrenaline fading. Then, a subtle shift. "There's something you should know," she said quietly. He turned toward her. Before she spoke further, he felt it. A faint rhythm beneath the shared current of their merged consciousness. A third presence. Soft. Emerging. Not fear. Not pain. Potential. His breath caught. "That's not residual from the spire," he said. "No," she replied. Her bioluminescent markings pulsed gently, not with strain, but with transformation. "The convergent spire does more than restore," she explained. "When two compatible neural matrices achieve full synchronization, it can initiate generative convergence." He stared at her. In plain language. She held his gaze. "We have created continuity." The words settled heavily between them. Through the bond, he felt it more clearly now, a nascent spark forming at the intersection of their biological architectures. Human adaptability. Her species' neural resonance. A hybrid lattice neither civilization had ever recorded. "You're saying?" "Yes." Outside the shattered relay, human recovery ships began entering orbit. Her people's vessels lingered at the edge of sensor range, uncertain. If either side discovered this, panic would follow. Political systems would fracture. Militaries would mobilize. A hybrid child was not merely a life. It was a declaration. Proof that integration was not theoretical. It was biological. "They will fear what this represents," she said softly. "Probably," Vale replied. He stepped closer, resting his forehead gently against hers. Through the bond, the third presence pulsed faintly in response. "But they'll also have to face it." She searched his expression. "You do not regret this?" He thought of the battlefield, of carrying her through fire, of choosing decency over protocol. "No," he said. Beyond the ruined horizon, fleets recalibrated. Governments would soon learn that evolution had not come through conquest, but through compassion. And somewhere between two former enemies, a new heartbeat carried the future of both. Months later, the battlefield was a memory. Bastion Relay Theta no longer smoldered beneath ion-scarred skies. The shattered structures had been rebuilt, human alloy interwoven with the elegant crystalline architecture of her people. What had once been a contested outpost became the first jointly governed research world in either civilization's history. Where there had once been war, there was collaboration. Joint patrols replaced invasion fleets. Engineers debated energy harmonics instead of firing solutions. Scientists studied the convergent spire not as a weapon, but as a bridge. Official briefings called it the Theta Integration Initiative. Soldiers called it something simpler: the carry, because everyone knew how it started. Vale stood on an observation platform overlooking the restored plains. Grass now pushed through what had once been scorched earth. Wind turbines spun beside alien energy pylons, their power grids synchronized in elegant harmony. Beside him stood the woman he had once carried through smoke and falling steel. She no longer leaned on him for balance. But their bond remained, steady, luminous, inseparable. Inside the central medical atrium, two civilizations gathered in quiet anticipation. Human physicians stood shoulder to shoulder with her species' neural architects. Not rivals. Not enemies. Witnesses. Vale felt the first surge through their connection before alarms sounded. "It's time," she whispered. He didn't leave her side. When the pain came, he felt it, not as something foreign, but shared. He steadied her instinctively, grounding the surge of alien resonance with human stubborn endurance. "You chose this," she breathed softly. "Every time," he replied. Then a cry filled the chamber. Layered, resonant, human breath woven with alien harmonic tone. The child's skin shimmered faintly under the lights, subtle bioluminescent tracery moving beneath warm, living flesh. Eyes opened, bright, curious, reflecting both Earth sky and distant stars. Silence fell, because everyone understood. This wasn't merely a birth. It was proof. Proof that survival wasn't the pinnacle of evolution. Unity was. News spread across both civilizations faster than any fleet ever had. Military doctrines shifted. Diplomatic channels stabilized. Not because of fear, because of possibility. Vale held the child carefully, feeling the steady third heartbeat that had once been only potential within the spire's light. Months ago, the acrid scent of plasma discharge had hung heavy in the air as he walked alone through ruin. He had carried her through enemy fire. He had entered that battlefield alone. He would never be alone again.